Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a genuinely gripping, multi-generational true story of two legendary Han Dynasty generals. We're talking about Zhou Bo and his son, Zhou Yafu. These two guys, absolute battlefield geniuses. I mean, they literally saved an empire. But, as we're going to see, all that military brilliance completely failed to protect them from the paranoid, suffocating grip of ancient court politics. It's a crazy story of ultimate power, crushing irony, and a chilling repetition of history. Let's get right into it.
So long before reaching the height of his power, our second protagonist, Zhou Yafu, gets this impossible prophecy from a fortune teller named Su Fu. And this instantly hooks us into the central mystery of today's explainer. Su Fu tells him, "You'll become a marquis, you'll become chancellor, your power will be unmatched, and 9 years later, you will starve to death." He even specifically mentions the starvation will come from a line entering his mouth. Now, how on earth does a guy who achieves the ultimate rank of chancellor, with unmatched military and political power, just starve to death? It sounds completely absurd, right? But history has a really dark sense of humor.
What we're looking at here is a chilling generational cycle. It's basically a two-act tragedy where the son's life perfectly and poetically mirrors his father's. Think about it. Both men step up when the Han Dynasty is literally on the brink of total collapse. Both secure the ultimate victory, and both are rewarded with the title of chancellor. But, and this is the kicker, they both share this unyielding, rigidly stubborn personality. A personality that makes them completely unsuited for the delicate and honestly lethal dance of peacetime politics. Let's break down exactly how this crazy cycle played out, starting from the top. Act 1, the Weaver turned warlord. Let's start with the father, Zhou Bo. This is a guy who rose from incredibly humble beginnings to become the absolute military backbone of a brand new empire. I mean, he started out scraping by, weaving frames for silkworms and playing the flute at local funerals. He was a commoner in every single sense of the word. But then, Liu Bang launches his uprising to overthrow the Qin dynasty, and Zhou Bo joins the fight. Over the next few years, through sheer, undeniable battlefield competence, capturing cities, crushing rival warlords, securing borders, he just shoots up the ranks. He goes from being a lowly funeral musician to the Marquis of Zhang. His military might was completely unquestioned.
But, as we know, winning an empire is a whole lot different than keeping it. The brutal reality of ancient court politics set in fast. After the founding emperor dies, Empress Dowager Liu takes over. Fast forward to when she passes away, and her extended family, the Liu clan, tries to seize absolute control over the military and the state. They're a direct threat to the royal Liu family line. So what does Zhou Bo do? He and another official orchestrate a massive, bloody, preemptive purge. They completely wipe out the Liu clan. Having saved the Han Dynasty from being usurped, they place Emperor Wen on the throne. And for his trouble, Zhou Bo gets the ultimate reward, right chancellor.
But here is exactly where his battlefield instincts completely betray him. Warned that all this immense power makes him a massive target, Zhou Bo resigns and retreats to his estate. But he's terrified. Every time the local governor stops by for a visit, Zhou Bo literally puts on full armor and has his family stand guard with weapons drawn. Now, to the emperor, this looks exactly like a guy gearing up for a rebellion. So he's arrested and thrown into a terrifying political prison. The crucial takeaway here is that despite all his military genius, he was entirely helpless against political paranoia. The man who conquered kingdoms had no idea how to talk to an interrogator. He only barely survives by paying a massive bribe, 1,000 pieces of gold, to a lowly prison guard who secretly tells him to use the emperor's daughter as a character witness. When the emperor finally realizes it was all just paranoia and lets him go, Zhou Bo drops this incredible line. "I once commanded 1,000,000 troops, but how could I have known the immense power of a lowly jailer?" That stunning piece of dialogue just perfectly nails the tragic irony of his life, doesn't it? It perfectly contrasts his unmatched physical power on the battlefield with his absolute helpless vulnerability inside a political prison. He survived, yeah, but just barely. Act 2, the true general. So, enter the son. Zhou Yafu inherited his father's marquis title, sure, but he also inherited his dangerously stubborn, unyielding personality. You can see this perfectly in the famous Xiliu camp story. Emperor Wen is out inspecting his armies as they prep for a Xiongnu invasion. At all the other camps, the emperor just rides right in, no problem. But when his entourage gets to Yafu's camp at Xiliu, the soldiers have their weapons drawn and crossbows fully loaded. They straight up refuse to let the emperor in, saying they only
take orders from the general. Even when the emperor sends an official edict, Yafu forces the royal carriage to proceed at a slow walk because, well, running is strictly forbidden in his camp. He doesn't even bow, using his full armor as an excuse. Now, Emperor Wen actually respected this and praised him as a true general, but it totally exposed this inflexible nature that was basically a ticking time bomb for when a different ruler took the throne.
Crushing the seven states.
Fast forward a few years, and the Han Dynasty is facing its next existential crisis, the rebellion of the seven states. It's this massive uprising led by the Wu and Shu regions. The new ruler, Emperor Jing, calls on Zhou Yafu to do exactly what his dad did decades ago, save the empire. And Yafu, he comes up with this cold, highly calculated four-step strategy to crush them. He knows the enemy is fierce but short on supplies. So, step 1, he deliberately abandons the allied state of Liang, just leaving them to take the full force of the enemy assault. Step 2, while the enemy is busy hammering Liang, he sends light cavalry to chop off their grain supply lines. Step 3, he builds heavy fortifications and strictly refuses to fight. He literally ignores frantic pleas for help from Liang and even ignores direct orders from the emperor to intervene. He just sits there and waits for the enemy to starve. Step 4, once they finally break and retreat, he unleashes his elite troops and totally annihilates them. It was a masterclass in military strategy. But the Prince of Liang happened to be the emperor's own brother, and let's just say he never forgave Yafu for leaving him out to dry. Just like his dad, Yafu gets promoted to chancellor for saving the day. And again, just like his dad, his military genius was matched only by his utter political clumsiness. He starts openly defying Emperor Jing on some incredibly sensitive political stuff. The emperor wants to make the empress's brother a marquis, Yafu shoots it down. The emperor wants to give titles to defecting Xiongnu leaders to encourage more to surrender. Yafu fiercely pushes back, throwing the dynasty's founding rules in the emperor's face, saying only those with military merit get rewards. He is totally inflexible. He's basically a soldier trying to force battlefield rules onto a political court. The friction gets so bad that he's eventually forced to resign, claiming illness.
Which brings us to this moment of intense psychological suspense. Yafu is officially retired, but the emperor is looking ahead. His heir is still young. He's thinking, can my young prince really control this old, stubborn, wildly popular general who has a habit of completely ignoring imperial orders? So how exactly does an emperor test the loyalty of a dangerous retired minister who's notoriously rigid?
And that leads us to the psychological climax of Yafu's career, the legendary chopstick incident. Emperor Jing invites Yafu to a private banquet. But when Yafu sits down, he's served this massive uncut slab of meat. And, crucially, he isn't given any chopsticks. It's a deliberate passive-aggressive test. Now, instead of just humbly accepting the slight or, eating with his hands, Yafu gets visibly ticked off. He turns to the head steward and angrily demands utensils. Emperor Jing just smiles coldly and asks, "Are you not satisfied with this?" Realizing his mistake, Yafu begrudgingly apologizes and storms out. The emperor watches him leave and just mutters, "This discontented man is no subject for a young ruler." Boom. Test failed. His fate was entirely sealed right then and there. The tragic dominoes finally start falling shortly after that. Yafu's son, wanting to hook his aging father up with a truly grand funeral, secretly buys 500 sets of specialized armor and shields from imperial craftsmen to bury with him. Now, this was highly illegal, and to make things way worse, the son treats the hired laborers terribly and refuses to pay them. The laborers are furious, obviously, so they go straight to the authorities and spin this illegal funeral purchase into a massive treason charge. They claim the Zhou family is stockpiling weapons for a coup. Naturally, the authorities immediately arrest Yafu.
Brought before the interrogator, Yafu fiercely defends himself. He points out, correctly, that these are clearly just burial items, not weapons for some grand rebellion. But the interrogator hits him with this terrifyingly absurd logic. Even if you aren't rebelling above ground, you want to rebel underground. I mean, wow, that shows us crystal clear that the throne had already made up its mind. There was no logic here, no search for truth, just a desperate, calculated need by the emperor to eliminate any perceived threat to his succession.
Prophecy of starvation fulfilled.
Yafu actually tried to end his own life when the officers first showed up, but his wife stopped him. Now, locked away in the exact same court prison system his father had barely escaped from, he feels totally humiliated. He realizes there's absolutely no escape from this paranoid autocracy. So Zhou Yafu takes matters into his own hands. He refuses to speak.
and more significantly, he refuses to eat. For 5 days, he just sits in his cell, consuming absolutely nothing. On the 5th day, the man who had commanded massive armies and single-handedly saved the Han Dynasty vomited blood and died. That impossible prophecy from the fortune teller all those years ago, that he'd reached the absolute pinnacle of power and yet starve to death, fulfilled to the very letter.
The grand historian Sima Qian deliberately sets up this contrast in his historical records, and it's brilliant. Think about it. The traits you absolutely need to survive the battlefield: rigid adherence to the rules, unyielding strategy, a stubborn refusal to compromise, those are the exact things that save empires. But shift to the reality of the political court, and those exact same traits, inflexibility, political bluntness, refusing to play the monarch's psychological games, those will destroy your life. Sima Qian is showing us that the exact same nature that made the Zhou family the saviors of the Han Dynasty also inevitably made them its tragic victims.
To wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a provocative thought. We've just watched 2 generations of men who were absolute masters of war, but total novices at peace. So when you get to the halls of ultimate power, is uncompromising brilliance actually a fatal flaw? Are the traits that make a brilliant commander the exact same traits that make a doomed politician? It's wild to think about how often this plays out, not just back in ancient history, but even in modern leadership today. Thanks so much for exploring this crazy piece of history with me. Keep asking questions, and I'll catch you in the